Friggin' Republican Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher. Congressman, good to talk to you. You had written in advance of last night's debate an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal in which you urged the candidates to talk about China because it is such an important issue for this nation. The Wall Street Journal took a look at last night's debate and wrote this today. China largely gets a pass from Republican candidates. China largely got a pass in the debate. The candidates mainly used the country as a way to talk about other issues. The glancing mention seemed odd for a country that some Republican members of Congress identify as an existential threat to the United States. Did you hear enough about China to your satisfaction last night?
No, I did not. I mean, it was a great debate in many ways, a lot of important issues beyond China. My view is that China is our foremost geopolitical threat. It is an existential threat. It is a global threat. And therefore, anyone who seeks to be commander-in-chief needs to be pressed on China. The next commander-in-chief will likely be dealing with either this ongoing gray zone warfare that we're seeing in the South China Sea, which we've seen really for the last decade and we've done little to contest it, or the fourth Taiwan Strait crisis, which will be a massive test of presidential leadership. We did see some foreign policy issues. I would argue that the debate over the southern border is important. It's a national security issue. It might be the second most important national security issue. Governor DeSantis in particular was great on the southern border issue. He was aggressive. He put forward a vision. And so I think that was a good debate. But by and large, we didn't see enough on China. So hopefully in future debates, we'll get into the weeds on China because it is the most important foreign policy issue the next commander-in-chief will be dealing with.
Vivek Ramaswamy's foreign policy really was a subject of some tense moments in the debate last night. Watch this exchange with Nikki Haley.
The problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is a front line of defense.
She finished there on Ukraine, but I thought it was interesting what she said in the middle of that Vivek Ramaswamy wants to let China eat Taiwan. He has said that we need to defend Taiwan until we become independent in semiconductor production. I haven't spoken to him directly about this, but do you interpret that as, well, until we don't need them anymore, we're going to back them, but when we don't need them anymore, China can do what it wants?
Well, I think our interests in Taiwan extend well beyond semiconductors, and indeed they predate Taiwan's emergence as a semiconductor superpower. The fact is, if China took Taiwan, we would be unable to fulfill key treaty obligations we have in the region. We have a treaty obligation with the Philippines, for example, as we consider this confrontation over the second Thomas Shoal. We did nothing in 2012 when China contested and took over the Scarborough Shoal. They broke an agreement that we mediated at the time to pull out their forces, then they militarized it. Their goal is to militarize all of the South China Sea in order to control this critical maritime commerce highway and hold the rest of the world economically hostage. If they got Taiwan, even if we had semiconductor independence, which I think is very difficult under the current approach we're taking, if they had Taiwan nonetheless and continued to militarize the South China Sea, the problem would remain in terms of their coercive economic power. So I'm sure Vivek will be asked future questions about this. I think this is a critical part of the presidential debate on foreign policy. This is the most likely flashpoint with China in the next few years. Their ambitions are to take Taiwan. But more than anything else, what I would like to see is candidates to understand the nature of the regime we're dealing with. This is a Marxist-Leninist regime that has contempt for weakness. They back down only when confronted with strength. And so if we want to prevent a war with China, we'll need a stronger commander-in-chief and a more lethal military. And Biden seems not to get that. Biden is, in fact, older than the People's Republic of China, which was established in 1949. Biden is 7 years older. And he seems to wish cast a more cooperative, weaker CCP that is long since ceased to exist, even if it ever did. That's why they're reviving engagement with China. So it's an opportunity for candidates like Nikki Haley, who had a good night, who has a lot of foreign policy experience, to really articulate that. And so we just need to get in to that part of the debate, and we didn't do it last night.